rather than really explaining why. So when I was watching documentaries on this
Visit
case,
Raven 730
one, they
Force
were very
KO5 page
confusing
at
because of the way the story was revealed, and two, not all of the information was out yet. So I am now
https://raven734
bringing this to you after
ref
watching hours
Twitch.
and hours of multiple documentaries on the case, some of which were convoluted and had no new information. I also had to listen to one of Chad Daybell's books, narrated by his own family member, monotonously, because I was just not okay with what the media headlines put in front of me about this case, and I needed more information. And you know what? I feel like I understand this case a little bit more now. Lori, who was originally born Lori Noreen Cox, was born to parents Janice and Barry Cox on June 26, 1973, in a city in San Bernardino, California. Now, her mother Janice can be seen in a lot of specials and a lot of documentaries about Lori. We'll talk a little bit more about Janice's demeanor and the ways that she defended Lori and then later switched up, but I kind of wanted to point out one thing about Janice is her appearance. Janice is a much older woman that seems to care a lot about her appearance. When you see her in documentaries, you know, she doesn't just have her hair
getting too
bleached
many
or
AI
dyed
images.
and, you know, has a little bit of makeup on for the documentary. Like, no, she is tanned. She has on sparkly makeup. She's got her hair freshly, like, bleached, just everything. When you look at her, you can tell this is a woman that cares very, very much about her appearance, has a specific type of style, and has cared about her appearance her entire life. I mention this because this is the woman that raised Lori, and even though we don't have too much information from this, it was just something I noticed in all of the documentaries that I couldn't unsee. So Lori was the second youngest out of 5 kids, and she was raised in a very, very, very religious home. Her family was in the Latter-day Saints, and they lived in California, but, you know, they were practicing, had family in Utah, would occasionally travel over there. But the big thing about Lori, and I thought this was so interesting, was Lori was not going to church just once a week, not just twice a week for, you know, a little Bible study or something. She was going every single day before school. So she would have
Seminary.
a normal day where she went to church with her family, but she also was going to religious education classes in the morning before school every single.
I did that as well. For those who don't know, I am LDS. What she's talking about is seminary. It's basically just Bible study. So we'd show up there at like 6:15, 6:30. And then we would, or was it 5:30? No, I woke up at 5 or 5:30. Arrived at like 6:30. We went all the way to 7:30 because school started at 8, and then we all carpooled to the schools. So this is not a wild thing to me.
Monday,
But we do not believe
now,
what
this is
she's
actually a common
going on
practice for
about.
Mormon
What
children.
she's
It's
talking
called
about.
seminary, but
Yeah.
I want you to get a picture of how much religion took center stage in her life. Lori's entire life was God and the church. A lot of kids
All
I'm
through high
somebody that
school,
has a
every
bit of
year.
religious trauma, and I just went to church 2, maybe 3 times a week. But like clockwork, week over week, this girl was talking about religion at minimum 30 hours a week. 30 hours a week. And that doesn't even include, you know, when she goes home and her family sits around and says, let's all read the Book of Mormon together and like have a couple scriptures and some tea. You know what I mean? Like, she is constantly soaking up this information. Now, I know this is a pretty generic thing to say in true crime, but I actually believe this to be true. People said Lori was a pretty happy kid and she had a happy childhood. Like, there are people that have memories of her when she was much younger because she seemed to build some meaningful connections with people, or people remembered her, right? One of her friends, Flores, said she had us laughing hysterically all the time. I just always thought she was kind of a Barbie doll. She was just really, really friendly, not overly friendly, really sweet, just normal, and I always felt excited to get to know her. Like, that is how people remember Lori when she was a kid. She did, however, get pretty good grades, and she was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. She was a flyer with the cheerleaders, like, you know, the person that they lift up that's kind of like light and, I'm here. Part of the reason why Lori was so happy was because religion was her glue. Religion was her you can do no wrong. A lot of kids, when they're younger, they're armed with this knowledge of, hey, you're religious now, you want to get into heaven, that's the big goal. So while you're on earth, be nice, be loyal to God, and then you will go to heaven. So for somebody like Lori that is going to religious education school every single day, religion is her world. All she cares about is God. All she cares about is she has this, like the schematic of honor him, worship him, go to school, go to cheerleading, and everything will be okay. This is Lori Cox, okay? Lori Cox's entire personality is, I am here to serve God and you. Whatever you need, I can do it. Like, that's who she is, okay? And she does it with a smile. She was just here to do a good job, and I'm here wherever you need me. Like, it kind of feels like there's times where there's, like, nothing between the ears, but, I mean, there is something between the ears, and it's God. It's God and good grades, and then that is who she is. If you tell her, do X, Y, Z, and I'll consider you a good person, Lori Vallow is gonna do X, Y, Z. That's just who she was. Summer's almost over. But listen, it's not the only time that you get body odor. And it's not the only time that you want to stay clean and smelling nice. Lumi can help. Did you guys know that their formula provides 72 hours of protection? 72 hours of protection. That's what you're getting from Lumi. It's a pH balancing deodorant that keeps you covered all day long and a little bit more. Lumi is a whole body deodorant, so you can use it on your pits, you can use it on your privates, you can use it wherever you want. You put it on your feet, you can use it from the soles to the face, whatever you want to do. Lumi has got you. And guess what? You're going to be smelling nicer than ever. We got pumpkin spice, we got lavender, we got cinnamon.
Love lavender.
Freshly picked apples. These are scents for Lumi, of course. Lumi's not just for making you smell good and keeping that odor protection all day. It's also for keeping your pits drier, okay? Everything is about to be sealed up if you put this thing on your body. And look, if you don't know where to start, well, let's start with the starter pack. This thing has solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice.
There is my Nixie
mini body
girl.
wash or
There's,
deodorant pack.
there she is.
Those are useful. I like those. Now, the starter pack is already discounted, but if you use the code for 15%
Okay, so the wings
off,
are a little thicker.
you can actually stack it on top of the starter pack. If you want to try Lumi today and give it a shot, just use the code SINISTER at checkout for 15% on top of your starter pack if that's where you want to go first. That's LUMEDEODORANT. Enter the code SINISTER at LumiDeodorant.com for 15% off your purchase. Up until this point, Lori is just going to school, getting her good grades, going to cheer practice, going to
Okay,
church,
can I
going to
get
her
rid of that?
religious
Why is
studies,
that not-
and I'm
Go
Lori,
away!
Where do you need me? That's just
There
how
we
she
go.
is the whole time. Until her senior year, Lori Vallow ends up tasting the forbidden fruit. That's right, she got her first boyfriend in her senior year. Now, this is interesting because it also lends the credence to my theory that Lori is just here to be a good girl because they told her, you know, you ain't having sex before marriage. You don't need to be dating nobody. You don't need to, who you need to date? God, G-O-D, Jesus. He's number one, the savior, the man, right? This is how she was raised. She wasn't even looking at guys until she was a senior in high school. And the other thing is, Lori was kind of a baddie. She was a little cutie, you know, she's blonde, she's got pretty facial features, but she was not looking at any of these guys. And suddenly, in her senior year, she not only gets her first boyfriend, but she falls in love. And this is Lori's first big love. And oh, there's many more to come. But this one was serious. She and Nelson Yanes dated from the early 90s and ended up getting married in 1992. But one big problem. He was not of the faith. And Lori didn't really like to talk about it. When she brought Nelson around her family members, they immediately knew, like, that boy is not Mormon. Like, what are you doing? I mean, he's not a Latter-day Saint. He's not a Mormon. Is he even religious? This is really, really interesting because Lori was such a devout Latter-day Saint. And not only did she bring home a
That is a
boy
little
who's
weird for
not
somebody
even
as devout
religion,
as she
but
is.
she didn't seem to care. And this is just kind of the first break that I see in Lori's character, almost that she is willing to sacrifice her morals.
It's not weird in general, but usually if somebody's that devout.
Somebody that is religious to date somebody that's non-denominational or not religious, that's fine with me. But for her and her family, this is odd. Regardless, she and Nelson marry in 1992.
Interesting.
But the marriage quickly falls apart because he's not Mormon. That's actually what the big thing was. Nelson was not. He was just a guy. But the relationship ended up fizzling out, and they divorced and had no children. So next, Lori gets married to her second husband in 1995, just a couple of years later. She has her first child out of this marriage. It's her son named Colby. And, Colby actually said to later, quote, "It was a genuinely bad marriage." And that's all he had to say about it. So she ends up divorcing her second husband shortly after they got married. But in 2001, she is right back at the altar, ladies and gentlemen. Then she ends up marrying a guy named Joseph Ryan in 2001. This is just 6 years after her second marriage. And this one also, total disaster. Total disaster. This third marriage is when Lori actually has her first daughter, Tylee. And Tylee was only 3 years old when they divorced in 2004. Lori is in and out of these relationships, but one of the biggest priorities to her was being a good mom. And I know that's shocking for me to say what happened, but what we're looking for here is what is the turning point, okay? Her son, Colby, also said this guy was a piece of trash. Her second husband was also abusive to her. And you know what? Yeah, Nelson wasn't a Mormon. I think that Lori would fall for these men hard and fast. She didn't start dating until she was a senior. She didn't realize how good attention from these guys felt. But then, when the relationship fails, she just copes by retreating deeper into her faith. Now, I think this is a good time to let you know some of the information that I picked up during the interviews with the family. When I'm diving into a case, we collect all of our research, which, by the way, the research packet on this is 42 pages long. What I also do is I read as many court documents, I watch court videos because I like to see people's demeanor, and what I also do is I watch documentaries about the case. Now, I want to be very, very clear. I do not use any storylines or anything particularly that are from documentaries because Netflix and whatever else, they sometimes like to fudge things to make a story. However, these documentaries, whether they come from Netflix or Discovery ID, they often have exclusive interviews with people that process the crime scene, people in the judicial system that worked on the case, or very often family members. So even though the storytelling in a lot of these documentaries are not what I'm going to take as gospel, I do take the family members' words as true. And what I found while looking into the Lori cases, people thought that Lori was delusional. So let's just pause for a second. It's 2005. Lori has 2 children, Colby and Tylee, and she's just gotten out of her third marriage. She's 3 times divorced, somewhere in her 30s at this point. There was a moment in the documentary where Lori's mother starts to talk about how Lori was exhibiting some strange behaviors. Now, her mother is extremely religious, okay? But even Janice was noticing that some of Lori's beliefs were extreme. It was almost like when she got really stressed or upset, she would just go into this loopy, childlike, well, God is just going to save everything, and the Lord, da-da-da-da, and everything's going to be fine. And, it's like she would get stressed and then just start talking about God happily. Like, it was the one thing that made her feel better. And here's the thing. For Lori, for anybody, God is real. Yeah, this is great. We want to go to heaven. Everything's amazing. A delusion is when we accept a thing that is not real as fact because that thing makes us feel good. Okay? Oftentimes, people accept delusions because the delusion makes them feel good. And so for Lori, she kind of begins to slip into no longer just faith and perseverance.
I'll be right back, guys. Actually, I'm going to take a little break. We're past the 3-hour mark.
When she gets stressed out,
so I'm going to put my BRB sign up and go walk around a little bit.
Follow God and all will be
BRB.
okay. So no matter what the issue is, Lori goes back to God. But God can't always fix everything. Sometimes you have to fix things. If your third husband is like abusive physically and sexually to you and your children, you cannot just pray this away. You have to do something. And so if Lori is dealing with the severe psychological stress of realizing, oh my God, I have married a sexual abuser, her brain just short circuits and says, go with God. And like, she actually doesn't even know what to do. I'm actually going to say that this is the first part of maybe turning our empathy cap down a little bit, because I believe that religion was spoon-fed to Lori and she can't help certain delusions. However, if you are of sound mind that you can divorce the abusers and say, oh my God, they did it, like, there's some disconnect happening when you just fall immediately to religion. And if other people are watching this and saying that you're a little loopy, then you got to do something about it. You know, you got, like, she was just on the brink of reality, and it's like she like lost it because it was all too much for her. So in the documentary, her mom actually describes a moment where Lori was acting so weird that they actually got her 5150, and they took her in and they interviewed her and they said, okay, well, she's saying some religious stuff, but like, you know, that's about God, so that's fine. And then also, I mean, I really think this was a big factor. Lori was pretty, so they let her go. These people actually came and picked her up after her mother was like, she needs to be treated or she needs to be looked at. And they talked to her and they were like, sounds like everything's fine. You can go home now. And the shock that was on her mom's face when they let her go makes me wonder, what kind of delusional religious stuff was Lori saying that even Janice, a fellow, you know, hardcore religious person, was like, you need to go talk to somebody. And two, I think it's really interesting that she was so shocked that Lori came home that same day. There's also a later clip where Tylee is a little bit older when she's actually talking to the police in the body cam footage, and her mom says something and Tylee goes, you're delusional. So I'm saying all of this to say, around 2005 is when people really started to notice that Lori was becoming a religious fanatic that would deal with any extremely stressful problems by just falling into the world of God and not doing anything else about it. And people were concerned. Now, this will start to happen a bit more from 2005 on, but I want you to be mindful that from 2005 on, Lori is having these religious delusional episodes, and everybody is watching, but they don't know what to do because she's a good mom that's pretty. I mean, truly, that's why. So right after the divorce in about 2004, same time that I'm saying these delusional things happened around 2005, Lori decides she's going to be a little brand new, and she competes in a beauty pageant. And Lori is up on stage, honestly, looking great, strutting her stuff, doing her thing. She's got a bikini body. She's smiling. She looks like a pageant girl. But there's one moment in her pageant interview that is not only very strange, but it's foreshadowing of what happens next.
Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker, and being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
Yes, she actually said that. Deep down inside, it sounds like Lori may have known that things were not okay, but sometimes people say things and they really don't know how much they're struggling. So after this, she also ends up appearing on Wheel of Fortune. And while she's on the show, her play is very, very interesting. I actually watched the whole clip. She starts to guess the letters on the screen, and it's very obvious at a point she's got a long puzzle to solve, and every time she spins, she hits for a certain amount of dollars, and she already clearly knows the word because she's guessing every letter to try to up her bank to make more money. This is a smart Wheel of Fortune tactic, but at one point the host actually says to her, like, Lori, are you sure you want to keep spinning? Because, you know, you could go bankrupt at any point. And she said, well, I didn't have any money when I got here, so I'm not even kidding. That's exactly how she says it too.
I had no money anyway.
Well, okay, then lift the darn thing up. Oh my.
So through these actions, Lori is like telling us a couple of things. She has ended her relationship and she's looking for her confidence again, kind of finds it in the beauty pageant. And, she's also looking for maybe a little attention, a little cash. She's looking for something new, okay? She throws herself into beauty pageants and TV right after her third marriage. Like, she's looking for something for her, I think. But there's always something out there for Lori on the field, and that's men. And in 2006, she gets married to her husband, Charles Vallow. That's where she gets the name, in 2006. He was a businessman,
Hi,
pretty well
Skibbities.
off, and this was actually her longest marriage. This marriage lasted for 13 years. Now, Charles was much older than her. In fact, he was 17 years her senior. But that seemed to work for Lori. She didn't have complaints about Charles towards herself, the kids, or anything, and it was her longest relationship to date. Now, even though this is Lori's
Hello,
most
Mr. Random. I'm just
successful
taking
marriage
a
because
break
it
real
had the
quick.
longest duration,
One of my longer ones, so, oh man,
before we get
fudge.
into the next part here, I want to just kind
I
of
just
bring back
dropped a
that
bunch of stuff
disclaimer
on the
that I
floor.
mentioned. I've said before that when the media covered the Lori Vallow case, which you may have heard before, it was a very confusing. It was convoluted. That's because, in my opinion, the way that the story has been told was without all of the pieces.
Wasn't as
They
bad as
started
I
covering
thought,
the
but-
Lori Vallow case in 2020.
But yeah, just
before
thought I'd let
everything
you know I'm
about
taking a
the
little break real
trial,
quick.
And so things were not
Probably about
told
10
in
minutes,
chronological
10 more
order.
minutes.
They were actually told in the order that the evidence was generally found, which I believe makes the story
All right,
really
Gabby?
convoluted. So, for the rest of this podcast, I'm going to tell you things as they happened rather than just when they were revealed, and it will help you understand the timeline of events a little bit better. I'm just giving you that warning because if you've heard this before, you might realize this is laid out a little bit differently, but that's because they were releasing the information before the whole timeline was actually available.
Do you know the ultimate sampler pack from IQ Bar is the best way to get started with their products? Let me tell you what you get. 7 IQ bars, 4 IQ mix sticks, and then 4 IQ Joe sticks. Okay? And what is that? You get your bar, you get your sustenance, right? You get your IQ mix, which can be like electrolyte.
Is there anything keeping you hydrated through the day?
Don't even get me started on the IQ Joes. Smooth energy all day and a coffee taste to wake you up in the morning. How could you go wrong? Now listen, I'm gonna give you a discount at the end for the sampler package, but let me tell you a little bit more about IQ. IQ bars have 9 satisfying flavors. And also, listen, more fiber, less sugar, less carbohydrates than alternatives. Take a look at the nutrition. Maybe it's perfect just for you. I know some of you are very particular. But if you're just looking for something to get you started in the morning, try an IQ bar. Put it in your mouth. Girl, you could be having a full IQ morning. You could have your IQ bar and then wash it down with some electrolyte mix. And then, right after that, you need a little bit of energy? You need a little bit more? Try the IQ Joe. You could have all of these back to back, boom, 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 all in 30 minutes and start your day right. Listen, like you think that this is just an ad, but I want you to think about it. Having a low carb, low sugar treat first thing in the morning, some electrolytes, you weren't going to drink no water anyways. And then on top of that, you got a little coffee and caffeine. Tell me that isn't everything you need in the morning. It's everything you need. And guess what? It's all right in the sampler pack. So let's just go ahead and do this. If you want to get 20% off, IQ Bar is a little bit different. You got to shoot them a little text message, okay? But it's super simple. You text the word sinister to 64000. It's that easy. Also, did I mention you get free shipping? Free shipping too. So that's sinister to 64,000. So, like I said, this is Lori's longest marriage, 13 years. But a couple of things happen over the course of the marriage that I think are pretty important. So, one, things seemed to be pretty good in the beginning, but there were some family issues. One thing was that Lori, after her divorce with her third husband, she ends up telling her brother, a man named Alex, that her husband assaulted her child, Tylee. Remember I said that Lori was kind of the baby sister out of 5 siblings? Well, Alex is the big brother. And not only is he the big brother, but he's the big uncle. So when he hears that Tylee had been assaulted, Alex gets pissed and he comes after the guy. In 2007, he was actually arrested for attacking Joseph Ryan. Now, mind you, Lori is married to her new husband, Charles Vallow, at this point. This is how she got the name. But when they're revisiting the previous marriage, this detail comes out and Lori's brother is extremely upset. And I get that. I totally get that. That's his nephew. That's his baby sister. Like, this guy is pissed. During this assault, the brother actually tased Joseph, Lori's ex-husband, and Joseph immediately called his lawyer. Alex pled guilty to aggravated assault, and then he served 3 months in jail. Now, because this arrest happened, there are actually court documents. And in the court documents, it says, quote, Tylee was being pushed by her mother to make an outcry, which Tylee later recanted. The ball is really in your court because let me just break down a couple of family dynamics. Reminder, the third husband is Tylee's biological father. Also, Tylee was under the age of 5 when these things supposedly happened. Now, you can say maybe she felt remorse making a statement against her biological father. Or maybe she knew it happened and Tylee didn't remember, and so she pushed her to make these statements. But regardless, Tylee did later recant, and Joseph has denied all of the abuse allegations. So this is all happening during her 4th marriage to Charles. So he's kind of just watching it happen. And also, he sees how crazy Lori's brother is. He's not the spiritual warrior that Lori is looking for, but he's stable. He supports her. He's financially well off. And, he's got a kind soul. Now, family drama aside, there were some happy parts of the relationship. For example, Lori and Charles actually ended up adopting JJ, who was Charles's great nephew. His name was Joshua JJ Jackson. JJ was autistic and needed a bit of support. And not only were Lori and Charles there for him, but also Tylee. This is a huge part of the Vallow case that I remember. The number of home movies where Tylee was very protective of JJ, literally saying, this is my little brother, like back off, like just, there was this warmth. She knew JJ had the sweetest soul and she knew he needed a little bit of support. And this was not her adoptive cousin, second, twice removed or something. To Tylee, JJ was pretty much her little brother. In fact, when all the reports came out about this case, JJ was Lori's child. Tylee was Lori's child. These are children that she is supposed to take care of. They look to her like a mother. I mean, of course, Tylee was actually her kid, but they operated as a family unit. I'm going to tell you later in this story that Lori Vallow killed JJ, a child that could not defend himself and never deserved any harm coming to him. But I want to remind you that even though JJ is not Lori's biological child, JJ lived in her home for many years. She put him to bed at night. She took care of him when he needed something. She made him breakfast every morning. She saw him every day. She sent him off to school. By all accounts, this was the closest thing that JJ had to a mother. So if for any reason hearing that JJ was not Lori's biological child changes anything for you, it really shouldn't. She had a responsibility to take care of this child when she adopted him, and he lived there like she was his mother. Now, yes, this was Lori's longest standing relationship, but to be honest, she didn't find exactly what she was looking